What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Team Big Plays. So today what I got for you is a Prank Kids deck profile. I figured the last one I made, which was like a couple months ago, was before the ban list, before Summon Sorceress got banned, which kind of, you can't really play that build anymore because Summon Sorc is banned. So like the Griffin combo is just obsolete. Obviously you can't use Summon Sorc, and it makes the Thunder Dragons less consistent, so it's not really worth running anymore. So the version I got for you today, instead of being a Thunder Dragon build, this is a pure Prank Kids build, and honestly I think it's definitely one of the better builds that I've seen. It's a I don't even want to say, like, the way Prank Kids seem to have evolved after that ban list is they're more field spell oriented, because you have cards like Prank Kids Place, which searches your monsters, the new Fusion Recycling Plant, which searches your field spell, and then personally I run Mystic Mine, which allows you to do kind of like a lockdown version. There's like a combo with Fansies and Dropsies, and you just keep cycling them, burning your opponent down, gaining life points. Actually was going up against a dude at locals, and he was running Trickstar Skystriker Orchists deck, and he's actually going to the WCQ this weekend, right? Saturday. Technically it starts Friday, but Saturday. And actually I ended up having to make him draw because first game he conceded because I just kept burning him down for life points, and we were getting close to time, and my life points were at like 13,000 plus because of Dropsies, and his were at like 6,000. So game I scooped that up, he scooped it up, went to game 2. He pretty much had it won. He went, let's see, first or second, one of the two, and I bricked, so it was like, because you do brick with this deck sometimes, but normally, like, you can fix it, and I've done some alterations, so that way, hopefully it should be a bit more consistent. And then, so I scooped up. I was like, no, I'm not going to wait for time to draw the cards I need. I could have lived, but I was like, nah, I'm just gonna wait. We scooped up. We go to round 3, but like by that time, time's over. So right then and there, the game ends. So it ended up having to be a draw. And yeah, time is definitely one of your best friends with that combo. So we're gonna get into the deck profile now, and yeah, see you guys on the other side. Alright, so we are going to start with our monsters. You have to run 3 of each monster. Just for consistency reason, plus there are only 4 individual monsters in the archetype, so 3 of each is kind of a staple. You have to. The only one you could run possibly 2 of is Roxy's, but like, just, yeah, you don't do that. You don't do that, trust me. So anyways, you run 3 copies of Prank Kids Dropsies. You run 3 copies of Prank Kids Lampsies. 3 copies of Prank Kids Fansies, and 3 copies of Prank Kids Roxy's. So basically the whole gimmick to the deck is that when you use a Prank Kids monster for the fusion or link summon of another monster in their archetype, so Prank Kids Link or Fusion, they get a special effect that goes off, and then you can special summon another Prank Kids from the deck. So as you can probably tell by like how diverse they all are, they all have different effects that correspond with the monster. So for Prank Kids Dropsies, the effect would be use it for a fusion or link summon, and then you gain 1,000 life points, and you can special summon another Prank Kids monster from your deck except Dropsies. Lampsies, instead of gaining 1,000, you're burning your opponent for 500, and then of course you get special summon another monster. Fansies is a Foolish Burial for the deck. And a Foolish Burial Goods. You can send basically any Prank Kids card to the graveyard in your deck, not extra deck. If it was extra deck, that'd be pretty good. Busted even. Oh my god, dude, just rocking around. Anyways, Roxy's, you can ban this one. You can banish a card from your hand and redraw. So yeah, basically, if you fusion or link, you're gonna obviously, if you link summon, more often than not, you're probably only gonna need 1 of these. But if you're fusion summoning, you're gonna use 2. So obviously, like 2 monsters, fusion summon, you get 2 more. Use those monsters, you get 2 more, which is like, you can just turn out an insane amount of monsters onto the board, and like very easily either OTK your opponent or just establish boards for disruptions next turn. What we'll get into the extra deck later, there is actually an in-archetype Harpy's Feather Duster, which is nice for back row decks, and an in-archetype Raigeki, which is what the big bad boss monsters do. So, now that we have the monsters out of the way, we are going to be going into our hand trap lineup. You run, personally, I run 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and I run 2 Effect Veiler. So the reason you're running only 2, anyways, this is a 39 card deck, because you run Upstart Goblin, but is, 1, consistency reasons. There's, like I said, you want to keep the deck as small as possible to get the right hand every time. So you only run 2 of these, and trust me, you see them more often than not, for a fact. And the reason I picked these 2, 1, because I only have 1 Ash. You could actually run like 2-2-1 of something, so like 2 Ogre, 2 Veiler, and like a Ghost Spell, or 2 Ash, 2 Veiler. You can run, or like even 3 Ash and like 2 Ogre, but I prefer to run 2 and 2. So Ogre, because you know it deals with multi-roll. I think that's pretty basic. It's nice guard dragging. You hit the Saryuja with Ogre. Don't use Veiler for the Saryuja, use Ogre. I mean, I guess you could use the Veiler, but I'd rather not. I'd rather use Ogre. You know, that gets rid of the Saryuja. They have no arrows, Sky Striker, no multi-roll. That means you don't get to recur all your stuff, which slows them down by a lot. Veiler, Orcus, you hit Mermaid. Ogre, you hit Mermaid. Veiler, you hit Bardiche, or you hit Galatea. Pretty simple. So I think that's straightforward as to why I chose those 2. Now for the spells, I've done my spells a little differently than what I've seen some other people run, such as people run Invocation. I don't like Invocation. Why? Well, because it's essentially a brick. If you don't open 2 Prankets monsters in your hand, or if you draw it later down the line when you need something like Pandemonium, which is their spell archetype, or Polymerization, it's a brick if you don't have the cards in your hand. So I don't like that card. Anyways, for the fusion spells, you run 3 Prankets Pandemonium. This is the in-archetype fusion spell. It's a quick effect. During the main phase, your opponents, you can fusion summon 1 Prankets fusion monster from your extra deck, using Prankets, but then it locks you into using Prankets monster only. This is a card that you're generally gonna want to just like get 2 to your hand, and then you set them for your opponent's turn to go into your fusion monsters, because those are disruption and protection for you for next turn to just like go in and kill your opponent. For your other fusion spell, you run 3 copies of Instant Fusion. I like to run this one as kind of a tech, because you can go into Thousand Eyes Restrict and take your opponent's monster. Then you know you just make Link Creevo and go from there. Or you can go into Prankets Rocket Ride. So if I only have 1 Prankets monster in my hand, right, I need at least 2 Prankets monsters to Link Summon or Fusion Summon. So you Instant Fusion, you Special Rocket Ride, you normal your Prankets monster, and then you Link 2, using them. So Instant Fusion is essentially another monster or a combo extender. Like if you already go full combo, let's say you use Roxy's and you draw into it, you can just activate Instant Fusion and have basically an even bigger board, or you can just save it for next turn and OTK your opponent. Let's see, I'm not on extra deck, I'm on spells. I run 2 copies of Polymerization. I used to run 3, but like I said, I like running a 39 card variant. And I think 3 just gets kind of bricky. I want to see Polymerization, but I don't want to see like multiples constantly, or I don't want to draw it for a brick, especially when I have ways to search it, which we will get further into down the line. You run 2 copies of Prankets Pranks. So what this does is you can discard continue spell, you activate it. You can discard one Prank Kids card from your hand, special summon a Prank Kids token, which would be this. And then, you know, pretty much the same thing as instant fusion. You normal summon your Prank Kids monster and you link off. And it's a token generator. I don't know, you just use it for link plays. You can use it to link climb. It special summons a level 1 token. So you can, like, if you're missing one more monster for, like, I don't know, Avermax or Borload or Borsword or whatever, you can use pranks, take that, go to link Karibo, and then, you know, just link climb. It also helps with bricks. Like, let's say, you know, you draw one monster, the rest are just Prank Kids, spell, and traps. Discard one to the plan, especially the trap card, which it's nice and not nice to see. Like, it can break up your hand, but also make some amazing plays against back row decks. Anyways, for the field spell searchers, you run 2 terraforming and 1 set rotation. Set rotation is nice because it outs Mystic Mine. If you activate set rotation, I mean, you run Mystic Mine in the deck, but honestly, you could set your own Mystic Mine, give them something like Fusion Recycling Plant, which then you can activate your opponent's Fusion Recycling Plant because field spells. And yeah, as long as you keep your set rotation says that you can't activate a field spell or destroy field spells until both field spells that you set are flip face up. And you set one to your side of the field, set one to your opponent's side of the field. So basically, Mystic Mine matchup, you give them one, take yourself one, don't flip that field spell face up. Even if they activate Metaverse, they can activate Metaverse, they can't use it because they can't activate another Mystic Mine. So set rotation is just an out, plus then it's like a 3rd terraforming. If you play Trick Stars, you get what I'm saying. For the actual field spell, you run 2 copies of Prank Kids Place. So this card's basically your light stage for the deck. You activate it, you get to search a Prank Kids monster. Sadly, on like light stage, it is only once per turn, but it does have a secondary effect. So when you fusion summon a Prank Kids fusion monster, you can have all monsters you control gain 500 attack. This is also once per turn. And if you link summon a Prank Kids link monster, you can have all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack. So again, time, you can just like divide the gap. If you have a beater and you know you can't necessarily get around it, you just search this, link, fusion, link, whichever order you want to do, and then you just knock out your opponent's monster. And then again, for consistency, it's another Prank Kids monster, and it's searchable in Archetype. So you don't have to use terraforming set rotation. You can use Prank Kids Doodle-Doo, which is in the next deck, and we'll get to in a second. Second field spell, Fusion Recycling Plant. You use this to search polymerization. Another reason why I don't run a 3rd copy of the card, because this is a 3rd, 4th, 5th copy, because it can search them out themselves, and you can do this every single turn. And not only that, there's a secondary effect that not a lot of people use, and it's when you fusion summon for the turn, at the end phase during yours or your opponent's turn, you fusion summon, you know, because Pandemonium, you can add 1 fusion material from your graveyard to your hand. So again, you're recycling materials. That's always nice. And then Mystic Mine, because you get sometimes, in a lot, especially when you brick, you get in a lot of sticky situations where you just need to stall to see the cards you need. Or, you know, you're facing down a board of tons of negates and you can't really deal with it, so you make Mystic Mine, search it out, set rotation and terraforming. After you baited out all the other negates, activate it, and then you sit there. Or, which I'll show you the combo later, when you're going into time, or you're about to, you just recycle, as long as your opponent has 3 monsters, you recycle Lampsies and you recycle Dropsies, and you keep gaining life points and burning your opponent down while it gets closer to time. And if they decide to make like 1 monster to match your monster that you have on the field, because by the end of it you should only have 1, then Mystic Mine will be destroyed, but they only have 1 monster on the field, and killing them is insanely easy. Then to make it 39 cards, you run 1 Upstart Goblin. You know, so that way your opponent dark bribes it and you draw the card no matter what. Then you run 3 Call by the Grave. This deck can work around hand traps because chain blocking is insanely easy to do in this deck. But, you know, when you're trying to get off cards like Terraforming and Set Rotation, And there are times where you only activate one Prank Kids monster in your graveyard, like when you know, instant fusion or pranks like a token, and then you only can summon one monster, so you can't chain block. Called by the Grave is there just for the contingency. And then, I don't know if I said this about pranks, but during your end phase, if you have 3 Prank Kids cards in your graveyard or more, you can shuffle 3 Prank Kids cards from your graveyard back into your deck or extra deck and draw 1 card. So again, more recycling. That's pretty much what this whole deck is about, because you know you don't want to die. Like, it's super grindy. Your grind game is absolutely insane, and I will tell you from experience that time is probably your best friend here, which is nice. So, and stalling is incredibly easy. So for the trap cards, you run 2 Prank Kids Plan. It's the only trap card. It's a continuous. This is basically the link equivalent to Prank Kids Pandemonium. It allows you to link summon a Prank Kids Link monster on your opponent's turn during their main phase, which is insane. So basically, you can make your Prank Kids Link monster, which allow you to recore resources. You can make a Harpy's Feather Duster on your opponent's turn, which can get really big in attack, especially if you have the field spell out. And you know, basically, what's your opponent going to do with like Subterra Altergeist? They're going to set their back row, end phase, boom, next turn, kill them. And then it has a graveyard effect when it's in the grave. If your opponent monster declares an attack, you can banish this card from the graveyard. Shuffle Prank Kids cards from your graveyard back into your deck or extra deck, and your opponent's monster will lose 100 attack for it. So, even though like 100 attack doesn't seem like much for your opponent's monster to lose, you burn through cards so quickly that like it adds up. You can easily drop your opponent's monster by like 2,000 attack, 1,000 attack. Then not only that, you know, it's recycling your resources, and you can just use it even if you're trying to protect your cards. Sometimes it's not about taking damage. Sometimes it's about destroying your opponent's monster. Yeah, it's honestly like the hard reset button in the deck. I've tried to run 1, but honestly, there's so many times where it's like if you draw it, getting it into the graveyard is incredibly hard unless your opponent pops it, which I've had those times where your opponent pops it, but it's not. If your opponent really reads the card and they know what they're going up against, that's not going to cut it. And if you send it to the graveyard to banish it to recycle, but you're playing a long game and you have to send another one, and you only have 1, it just gets in the way. So I do run 2. So that is it for our main deck. We will be moving on to our extra deck now. Alright, so for our extra deck, we are going to start out with our fusion monsters. You run 1000 Eyes Restrict. Like I said, it's an instant fusion target, and it can help you get out of sticky situations and bait negates, especially since you run Link Haribo, and you know, who doesn't want a free Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss? Or, you know, have the negate baited out so you can just Mystic Mine and say goodbye to Danger Thunder. And then you run 2 copies of Prank Kids Rocket Ride. So this is probably one of the best extenders in the deck. So when it's fusion summon, you can make it lose 1,000 attack to attack your opponent directly. That hasn't come up too often, but like I said, going into time, it is insanely amazing. Honestly, I think its ability to go into time is like one of the largest reasons why it tops and why it makes like, you know, top 64, top 32, because it's grindy. And then you can tribute this card to special summon 2 Prank Kids cards from Prank Kids monsters from your graveyard. That's not a Prank Kids fusion. So basically, if you have the Link 4 or one of the Link 2s in your graveyard and you special summon them out, you just have like a free beater, plus, you know, you can use their effects again. Or you can just summon out the monster, like, you know, let's say your opponent somehow wiped all the monsters from your field. Instant fusion, bring this back, boom, start your whole entire combo again. Then you have Prank Kids Weather Washer. So what Weather Washer is a rocket ride during your opponent's turn. You contribute it, quick effects, special summon 2 from your grave. But the difference between Rocket Ride and Weather Washer is instead of getting to attack directly, that Weather Washer says, The monsters you summon can't be destroyed by battle, and this works really well with the link monster for your opponent's turn, which makes it so that way when it's distributed, your opponent can't destroy Prankid's cards with card effects. So you essentially you set up an insane wall of like only a couple monsters, so even if they kaiju you, basically 2 monsters, and they can't kaiju you twice, they can only kaiju you once unless they get rid of that and summon another one, which doesn't happen. And they can't sphere mode you because you only have 2 monsters on board. So yeah, you can set up insanely strong defense. Then you have your Prankid's Battle Butler. So unlike these two, which just take 2 Prankid's monsters and need to fusion summon, this one takes specifically Prankid's Dropsies, Prankid's Lampsies, and Prankid's Fansies to fusion summon into. It's your big bad boy, 3,000 attack, 3,000 defense. So what this does is, quick effect, you contribute this card and destroy all monsters your opponent controls. It is a Raigeki. When you're going against decks like Danger Thunder, this is your best friend. Orcists, like, you wait for them to get to something, you want them to go Galtea before they get their Dingirasu out. You blow up everything they have. So next turn, at most, they only have 2 Fog Blades to use against you, which is, like, doesn't really matter because you can just tribute your monsters off the field and Fog Blade can't do anything against them, or you can link them away, or you can just, like, summon so many monsters, Fog Blade doesn't matter. Definitely one of your most versatile monsters. And it's Raigeki. You know, Raigeki doesn't see a lot of play, but if it was quick effect, I guarantee it would. But if your opponent manages to destroy this card by battle or card effect, you can send to the graveyard, actually. You can special summon 1 monster from your graveyard, and it can be any monster, doesn't matter. You got a Borosword in there, bring that bitch back. Avermax, bring that bitch back. Borload, bring it back. Any of the other Prankid's monsters, bring it back. You want to bring back a hand trap? Bring back a hand trap. So yeah, that's it for the fusions. For the XZ monsters, you run 1 Abyss Dweller and 1 Totally Awesome. So I think Abyss Dweller kind of speaks for itself. Roxy's is a level 4, so getting 2 level 4s out is incredibly easy. So you just summon 2 Roxy's, bam, make Abyss Dweller. Then you know it's good against your matchups. Orcists, probably the most predominant matchup. However, you can use it against Salamangreat. You can use it against Danger Thunder Dragon. It's a couple matchups. Basically anything graveyard oriented, Abyss Dweller. But, you know, if it's not graveyard oriented, you can use Totally Awesome, which is... This card is honestly insane. Every time I make Toad, I win. I don't think I've ever had a match where I made Toad and lost. And I don't even think it's because of Toad itself. I mean, I guess Toad is a negate, but it's Lucky Charm, man. I swear to God. So what this does, you need 2 level 2 Aquas, which is your Prankid's Dropsies. Then, when your opponent activates a card effect, you can... Is it Destroy or Tribute? That is kind of important to check out. Send 1 Aqua monster from your hand or field to the graveyard. Negate that card. Then, you can choose to set the card you negated to your side of the field. So if they, like, let's say you just made Battle Butler, right? But you have Toad on the board. And then Battle Butler hits the field and they want to impermanence it. Totally Awesome. You know, send this to the grave and then set their impermanence, which is insane. You can take their monsters. Sadly, you know, you can't set link monsters. But as far as spell and traps and, like, any other monster, you can take it, which is nice. You negate Hot Red, you get a Hot Red for next turn. Like I said, you negate impermanence, you get an impermanence, you negate evenly matched, you get an evenly matched. And then, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Aqua monster from your graveyard back to your hand. So you can either choose to recycle Totally Awesome, which happens, I've made it twice in a game a couple times, or you can add your Prankid's Dropsies, which will allow you to go into Weather Washer or Battle Butler. So that is it for the XZs. We are going to move on to our links. Alright, sorry about the skip there, but Link monsters. So for your Link 1, you run Link Rebo. This is for your Thousand Eyes Restrict or your Prank Kids Pranks. Prank Summons level 1 token. Thousand Eyes Restrict can clog up your extra monster zone, so if you just want, the space to go down, you can just link revo. Then 2, if I'm correct, the Lost World token that they give you is level 1, so you can, it's nice, put a monster on board, link revo's protection, so basic utility. Then you have 2 copies of Prank Kids Toadally. This is your searcher for the deck, so when this card is link summoned, you can add 1 Prank Kids card from your deck to your hand. It's a hard once per turn. If it wasn't, I would abuse the shit out of this card, and it would definitely be 3-up. But it's not, so you only run 2. And you really only need 2 as long as you're managing your sources correctly. Then you contribute this card. Add 2 Prank Kids cards from your graveyard to your hand. Also hard once per turn, which is nice. So basically you can just keep recycling. You can Weather Wash or bring it back. Can't be destroyed by battle, so you can use it during your next turn to recur more resources. Then you have the, like I said, the Weather Washer equivalent to this is you Prank Kids Bow Wow Bark. So any monster this points to, Prank Kids monster that it points to gains 1,000 attack, which, like I said, OTK. You summon the Link 4, or you summon Battle Butler, and that's 4,000 attack easy. You can use the field spell, drop your opponent's monster's attack by 500, and gain another 500, so that's an extra 1,000 in damage. So, and then during your opponent's turn, you contribute this card, quick effect. Add 2 Prank Kids cards from your grave to your hand. Then, if this card was tributed, Prank Kids monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effect for the rest of the turn. So you use this in conjunction with Washer. You basically have a wall of 2 monsters that can't be destroyed by battle and can't be destroyed by card effect. But this goes for every Prank Kids monster on the field. So, very, very nice. Then I run 1 copy of... Well, I'm not going to get to the Boar Brother yet. I'm going to go to Ruster, the Link 4. So, you can kind of... It's basically the same thing as Battle Butler, but the difference is... it's your Harpy's Feather Duster for the deck. You only need 4 Prank Kids monsters to make this. Actually, well, yeah, 4 monsters, but it's only 2 plus Prank Kids monsters, so you can use 2 of the links. Quick effect, you contribute this card, destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls. That includes Field Spell, that includes Back Row, Pendulums. Basically, you know how that works. Mystic Mine, it's a blowout if you're going first. Geists, Guru, even Orcists, actually. I've made it against Orcists before, and it's just mamma mia. Then for your other Link 4s, I run Borload Dragon. I think I'm going to swap it out, because I just saw I used to run Borload and Boral Sword, and I used to, like, instead of Link Revo, run Boral Sword, but Boral Sword's, like, getting reprinted soon, so basically, me and a friend of mine are just going to buy a box to get another one. So, I sold it ahead of time, which I recommend you do if you have one, because it's already dropping in price. Anyways, Borload, but if I were you, if you have Boral Sword, use Boral Sword instead of Link Revo, and if you have Crusadia Avramax, you can also use that instead, which I think I'm actually going to go get for the deck, because, Avramax has that ability to, when it gets sent to the graveyard, spin a card from your opponent's field, and then protection. So, yeah. That's it for the extra deck. I guess we will move on to our spicy side deck, which is definitely one of the things that set this deck apart from all the others. Alright, so for your side deck, we're going to go off with our monsters in the side deck, or hand traps. So I run 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird. I think I'm going to bump it up to 3. It's a really good card, this format, but there's only certain decks that it'll do, actually, honestly, it'll do good against pretty much the top 3 decks right now. Yeah, Salamangreat can work around it. So it'll do good against 3 of the top 4 decks. Basically, if you can't draw cards, you get no dangers. So no danger, Thunder Dragon monsters can activate their effects. So basically, you shut down their entire turn. Orcists still can work around it, depending on the cards they have in your hand, but it stops them from searching Babel or Crescendo, and it stops them from searching their fog blades. So as much as people like to say Orcus can play under Drone Lockbird, yes, they can get out their monsters, but they can't get out their negates, which is really what makes the deck insane. Like I said, I would bump it up to 3. So I also run 2 copies of Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, also known as Null Nun. So the reason I run this is when your opponent special summons a monster, you can discard this card to the graveyard. Then for the rest of the turn, if your opponent special summons monsters, you gain life points equal to those monsters' attack. So you run this against decks like Danger Thunder Dragon. You can also use it against Orcus. I use it primarily for decks that like to OTK the shit out of me, because you just gain an insane amount of life points. However, if they don't special summon a monster, your life points get halved at the end of the turn. So this is nice because then your opponent decides, do they want to give you enough monsters to their... You can survive multiple turns against them. So Danger Thunder Dragon, they set up that big-ass board, and you think to yourself, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to die next turn if I don't get rid of those negates. This gets rid of the problem. You discard this. Not only are you gaining life points equal to the attack of the big boys they summon, it's all the small boys, and that just adds up insanely. Plus, it's an aqua, so you can use Totally Awesome to recur this back to your side of the field. So if you're like in a fucked situation, slam this bitch down, what are they going to do? They're just going to let you gain life points. Or they can choose to not do anything, half your life points, but the next turn, if that's what they decide to do, and special summon no more monsters, you just kill them. Like Danger Thunder Dragon, they special summon... what's a monster that they just special summon? Let's say they special summon Reclusia, right? From their hand, they went into Magia, so then they special Reclusia. Drop this, and they decide to pass their turn. So your life points go down to 4,000. 1, you gain back all those with dropsies, like, no problem. Then, all they have are those 2 monsters on the board, and they're weak as shit. They can't do anything, so next turn, you just proceed to kill the living fuck out of them. Then, you run 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. I think that's pretty straightforward. Lancia, neither opponent, you can tribute this card from your field or from your hand. Neither player can banish cards for the rest of the turn. So, there's some pretty easy matchups. Orcus, basically end turn pass, set whatever they can. Thunder Dragons, set turn pass, no board, you kill them. Basically any deck that's banish oriented. Those are the main 2 matchups. Dinos as well. So Lancia, I think that's pretty standard in everybody's extra deck right about now. Then I run 3 copies of Red Reboot. I ain't about that Mystic Mine. Nope. We do have some problems against stun deck, like Altergeist and Subterrace. If we go first, we win. If they go first, however, it's hard to get to that link 4 because of cards like Goes to Match, cards like Secession, Final Battle, Summon Limit, Rivalry. Those can all slow the deck down, so you really want to make sure you have cards against those. And then for removal, I run 3 Heavy Storm Duster. The reason I don't run Twin Twisters is because your hand is very important. You do not have the cards all the time to be able to discard one. You can replace it with Twin Twisters if you want to. I just prefer to save the space. So like if I know I'm going first, I will use Heavy Storm Duster, or if I'm going second against a deck like Altergeists or Mystic Mine, I know I'm going to be able to live a turn. So you just set those, pass, pop what you need to, and carry on your way. Then for your own floodgates that you run, which is the reason why those are at 2, is I run 2, there can be only 1, which is another card I kind of want to bump up to 3. So what this card does is each player can only control 1 monster of each type. So the reason this works in Prank Kids is, let me explain it to you. So Lampsies is a Pyro, Dropsies is an Aqua, Fansies is a Thunder, and Roxy's is a Rock, as the names would describe. So under there can be only one. You can have all your monsters out on the field. This is a very nice card against decks like Danger Thunder Dragon. If they can't make Phoenix and they can't pop it, they can't special summon. The most they can do is put out one Thunder Dragon monster, or one Thunder monster, and one of their Dragon monsters, and pass turn there. They can't make those big negate boards. And then you can play under it since all your monsters are different types. And not only that, your extra deck monsters are all different types. This is Pyro, Rocket Ride, Aqua, Thunder, Aqua, Sea Serpent, Cybers, Thunder, Dragon, Aqua, Pyro. Like, and not only that, since they contribute themselves off the field, you clear up that space to where, like, if you have a Dodo on the field but you need to make something else and that requires using this, like, you can just get it off the field and then go into the next monster. It's really easy to work around this card, and it just helps you in so many ways. But then you know, and your opponent, if they're running a pure type deck, which would be like Thunder Dragons, Dinosaur, Orcists, because they're all machines, even though Nightmare Phoenix is a fiend, so that's pretty much the only one you gotta watch out for. But an Effect Veiler or a Ghost Ogre and you'll be fine. Yeah, and just, you know, other decks like that. Sadly, you can't use it against Striker, but you can use it against Salamangreat, because those are all Cybers. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's deck profile, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Soon I'll be planning on getting to you a Trickstar Orcus deck profile, and hopefully a couple other profiles. And then, too, I have some friends going to Nationals, so when they get back, I plan on doing a couple discussions and a tier list, I guess. You know, meta-analysis for everything that went on at Nationals. So, like, subscribe, notification bell, and I will see you guys next time. Peace, peace.